Hello, everyone who has joined us today. I'm Olga Atamanova, glad to welcome you at Ukraine Media Center. Ukraine's heroic fight continues, and we are starting from the first conversation we are going to have today on the financial stability of Ukrainian citizens. We will be speaking with Olena, Korobkova, chair of the board of the Independent Association of the Banks of Ukraine. Hello. Hello. I would like to start from a general question. What's your assessment of the general financial stability of our country and our citizens? A few basic statements from you. Yes, indeed. Despite the fact that we are having this ongoing war for almost 3 years, the banking system, the financial system is stable and capitalized, and it has adapted very quickly. Actually, also Ukrainians have adapted. We have seen some migration in summer 2024 when we had some challenges with electricity, but despite all of this, the demand for talent in many spheres is growing, just as the average pay is, and right now the average pay is 22,000 hryvnias per month, as found by WorkUA, and as we also saw the elections in the U.S. taken part, and we see the results right now. Ukraine, as the rest of the world, is watching what's going to happen next, what's going to be the strategy for interaction between Ukraine and the United States of America, because during the war, we as a country are dependent on international support. We are dependent on the supplies for our militaries for us to prevail. So there are some issues that are quite challenging to every Ukrainian. What about inflation? What are the expectations by the end of the year? You are saying that average pay is growing, but is it catching up with the inflation rates that are happening, and that will probably grow by the end of the year? Yes, indeed. If we look into the inflation rates assumed in the latest report by the regulator, according to them, it was supposed to be 9.7% by the end of the year. I believe it's going to be higher because as of now, we already have almost 9.7. By the end of the year, we can expect something like 10.5. It will not be as high as 11% under the current conditions, but I believe the peak of inflation is going to take place in the second quarter of the year 2025, after which it's going to go down. We could see higher prices for vegetable oil. It is good for the exporters, but we can also expect it growing on the internal market. The same is happening with eggs. So food products are becoming more expensive. Also, the salaries are higher, and if one is investing into bank deposits, well, they can get up to 17% per year in interest, and also the National Bank of Ukraine has its nominal rate at the same level, which is currently 13%, and it's going to remain stable by the middle of 2025 at least. If necessary, it can be increased if we will have to intervene for inflation, but it will not be a very high increase, like between 14 and 15% maybe, but not in the current year. In December, there will be the review of the rate of the National Bank, but it depends on the strategy they choose. You're saying that stabilization is something we can expect in the second half of 2025. What would be the reasons for this? First and foremost, there will be a much more understandable strategy in terms of our relations with the United States of America. Second thing, the new marketing year will start in the agricultural sector. There will be new incomes earned, and well, if we look into the current situation, we understand that if the current conditions remain, if the assumptions are valid, as a rule, in winter we are consuming more energy, which is expensive. In the banking sector, all businesses have bought generators, but we also understand that such energy is expensive. There are some expectations from the United States of America. We hope they will be able to provide us with some cheaper energy sources, but this is subject to discussion. One more question, Olena. Something that all Ukrainians are probably worried about. It's the exchange rate, hryvnia to dollar. What are we to expect? If we rely on my personal forecast, I believe the exchange rate by the end of the year is going to be between 42 and 43 hryvnias per dollar. The National Bank of Ukraine has its mechanism for the compensation of exchange rate spikes. It can be even as low as 41.5, but if they keep it at 41.5, it's going to be more expensive in the future. So I would expect something between 42 and 43 hryvnias per dollar. And if we also recall the statements of Donald Trump and the goals he is setting for himself, I believe he is going to strengthen the American dollar, and we are already seeing that the change is happening in the euro to dollar rate. So, well, I believe, yes, in the future the dollar is going to be stronger. So if Ukrainians are keeping their personal valuables in euro, it's a good time to diversify and keep some of this money in US dollars, because US dollar is going to be stronger. But if we also look at demand for dollars, after the a certain relaxation of monetary policy of the national bank, there is a higher demand for foreign currency, and the volume of foreign currency kept by the population is increasing by 10 billion on average. So if we look into the issue of saving, I understand that many Ukrainians are looking for different ways to keep their money intact, and thus they are considering the different options for investments. What would be your advice? Well, yes, indeed. Right now, if one is having a bank deposit, the rate is enough to make up for the inflation. And the National Bank has now slightly changed the reserve planning formula. After this, the banks started competing for private individuals' bank deposits, and right now in the Ukrainian hryvnia we can see higher rates such as 15%. We understand that if the policy of the national bank remains, I believe there can be an increase by 1 or 2% in the nearest future. So right now, these rates are enough to make up for the inflation rate. In dollars, one can get as high as 3%, in euro as high as 2.5%. So in the Ukrainian hryvnia, it is a higher rate that one can expect, and also we can see some changes in demand for the government bonds. Again, very good numbers that we are seeing from the Ministry of Finance. And these state bonds are more attractive in terms of taxation, for instance, because one is not paying the tax, one is only paying the military duty. And one more issue that we would like to discuss in terms of changes introduced in the field of taxation. We saw some draft laws that were approved by the Parliament. Has there been any impact of this on the financial stability, and do you envision any impact? Well, as of the most recent taxation changes, the impact on the financial stability is not considerable. It has to do with the banking system having to pay high income tax, and it's different from what was expected, but this is not a very high impact. It can have some impact on the inflation rates, but still the fiscal policy is quite reserved. And in the year 2024-2025, we are not expecting any changes in the utility rates, because, well, if they were adjusted to the advisable levels, this would entail impact on the inflation, because the government would subsidize citizens more. But as we can see right now, the monetary and tax policy are quite moderate, so the impact is not high. A lot, of course, depends on the situation in the battlefields. We also understand that we are dependent on the external international support. In the next years, it's going to be lower compared to what we had last year and this year. And so I believe that in the nearest 2 or 3 months, we will see the situation more clearly. But the main thing that a citizen of Ukraine should know is that the banking system is stable. All the bank deposits are guaranteed by the government. We are not expecting any major challenges. What one needs to do is to diversify the risks. One needs to diversify their investments, keeping them in 3 different currencies, having a bank deposit, having some government bonds, and also having some real estate, maybe. Over the last half of the year, we could see a very high increase in service prices. And here is my last question. You were speaking of the impact on inflation. I would like to hear your professional opinion on the latest initiatives by the government, such as 1,000 hryvnias for each Ukrainian, also additional 1,000 hryvnia for each teacher next year. On the one hand, we understand this may be some tangible support for some number of Ukrainians, but there is some potential for the increase of the inflation. Don't you think? Will we see this impact? Well, I would like to consider this issue from 2 standpoints. On the one hand, yes, as a government, we should strive to support our citizens, especially those in need, and for them, this 1,000 hryvnia is going to serve as additional support, especially if they have more than one family member in the household. The impact on inflation may be there, but it's not as high if we compare to the general picture. It will surely be under 1%. It will not be a serious impact compared to other factors that we are seeing right now. So Ukraine right now is in a difficult situation, but the financial system is still working. The economy is still working. Ukrainians are adapting to this, although the impact of war is still there. We understand that Russia keeps attacking our energy infrastructure. We can see some increases in migration. We can see some lags on the labor market. Yes, this is an obstacle to economic growth, but even the GDP is growing in the first and in the second quarter of the year. They even had to review their existing forecasts on that matter. We have considerable support from international sources, so we can see some increase in household income. Next year we are expecting high yields in agriculture, so it is quite safe to say that since mid-2025 the situation in Ukraine will look much better. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. Thank you for being moderately positive about this situation. Thank you for joining us today. And of course, we are grateful to the Defense Forces of Ukraine, thanks to which we are able to keep moving on. Our next activity is going to take place at 12. Stay with us. Glory to Ukraine.